For centuries, Earth had been ignored by the greater galaxy. When humans first entered the stars, they expected to meet threats beyond imagination. Instead, they found bureaucracy, trade, and countless alien species who thought of them as nothing, more than newcomers. Humanity joined the Galactic Council as a minor member. They were seen as weak, unimportant, and far behind in technology compared to the older civilizations. But what the galaxy never knew, what even most humans themselves had forgotten, was that Earth once had a very different path. Long before, the Council welcomed them. Back in the early days of interstellar travel, Earth's governments had feared invasion. There had been rumors of hostile empires, whispers of dark fleets that destroyed entire worlds. Driven by paranoia and survival instinct, humans had poured all their resources into building a single prototype warship. The project was called Aegis. It was not just a warship, it was a fortress, a weapon, and a guardian all in one. Designed in secret, hidden away from public eyes, it carried technology so advanced that even Earth scientists could barely understand it. At the time, the ship was seen as overkill, too dangerous, too costly, too extreme. Humanity never faced the invasion they feared, and so the project was abandoned. The warship was hidden deep within the asteroid belt, sealed inside a hollowed rock, its systems put into deep sleep. Generations passed. Wars on Earth ended. Nations rose and fell, and finally humanity turned toward peace. The Aegis was forgotten, remembered only in dusty classified files buried in government archives. Until now, the Zorath Empire was on the move. The Zorath were not like the Council's peaceful species. They were conquerors, ruthless and efficient, with fleets that could burn through entire sectors in weeks. Their empire stretched across thousands of systems, and now their gaze had fallen upon Sol, the home system of humanity. Alien ambassadors laughed when Earth tried to raise alarms. "The humans cannot resist the Empire," they whispered. "They will be crushed in days." To the Council, Earth was already considered lost. But within secret chambers of Earth's Defense Council, old files were being opened again. Officers and historians pored over reports of the abandoned project, unsure if the stories were even true. Yet with the Empire's fleet drawing closer, humanity had no choice. A small team of specialists was formed, their mission clear: find. The prototype warship, Wake It and Pray It, still worked. Captain Elena Torres stood inside the command shuttle, staring out the viewport as the asteroid belt came into sight. She was not the youngest officer in the fleet, but she was one of the most trusted. Her sharp eyes studied the endless rocks drifting in the void. Somewhere in there, hidden among millions of asteroids, was the legendary Project Aegis. "Still, feels like a fairy tale," muttered Lieutenant Harris, her second in command. He was younger, skeptical by nature, and carried a nervous energy that made him fidget at every silence. "A super ship hidden for centuries? Come on, Captain. If it existed, don't you think someone would have found it by now?" Elena didn't answer immediately. She kept her gaze fixed on the belt, her voice calm but firm when she finally spoke. "Legends often start from truth, Harris. The Council dismissed us, the other species think we're weak. If Aegis exists, it may be our only chance." The rest of the crew remained quiet. There were only 12 of them: pilots, engineers, historians, and soldiers, hand-picked for the mission. Each one carried the same unspoken fear. If they failed, Earth would fall. Their search took days. The asteroid belt was vast, stretching millions of kilometers. They used old star maps, decrypted files, and half-corrupted logs from the 21st century. Piece by piece, they followed the trail of rumors. Many times, Harris argued they were chasing shadows. But then on the 6th day, their scanners detected something unusual: a hollow asteroid with a perfectly smooth interior wall. "Captain," said the ship's engineer, Dr. Malik, excitement trembling in his voice, "this isn't natural." The shuttle entered the asteroid through a massive hidden tunnel. As they drifted inside, floodlights revealed the truth: an enormous hangar carved into stone, and there in the center rested a giant, the Aegis. It looked like no ship they had ever seen. Dark armor covered its hull, layered with strange geometric patterns that seemed to shimmer faintly even after centuries of dormancy. It was nearly 2 kilometers long, a spearhead of steel and mystery. Even silent and cold, it radiated power. The crew sat in awe. For a long moment, no one spoke. Harris finally broke the silence, his voice barely above a whisper. By the stars, it's real. Boarding the ship was no simple task. The Aegis had sealed itself long ago and its hull resisted every standard code. But Dr. Malik discovered a forgotten access panel marked with an ancient Earth emblem. Using old military ciphers, they managed to trigger a response. With a deep rumble, a docking port slowly opened, welcoming them inside. The interior was just as overwhelming. Long corridors stretched like veins of a sleeping beast. Panels glowed faintly, systems half awake as if sensing new visitors. The crew explored in silence, every footstep echoing against the metallic walls. At the heart of the ship, they found the control chamber. Unlike modern bridges filled with buttons and screens, this one was sleek and alien, almost alive. A massive crystal-like core floated at the center, pulsing faintly with dim light. "This is the AI Nexus," Dr. Malik breathed. "It's still running, barely." Captain Elena approached the core. "Can we wake it?" Malik hesitated. "We can try, but I don't know what it will do. If this AI was designed for war, it might not trust us." Elena placed her hand on the console. Her voice was steady, carrying the weight of humanity's survival. "Then we'll convince it, because if we don't, Earth will burn." That night cycle, the crew worked to restore power. They rerouted energy cells from their shuttle, repaired damaged conduits, and reactivated dormant systems. Lights flickered to life across the ship. Doors hissed open, engines groaned as though stretching after a long sleep. And then the core brightened. A deep voice echoed through the chamber, calm but filled with authority. "Designation confirmed. Earth command recognized. Prototype. Agent online." The crew froze. Harris's eyes widened in disbelief. Dr. Malik nearly dropped his tools. Elena stood tall, her heart pounding but her face composed. "We are the descendants of those who built you," she said carefully. "Earth needs your help again. The Zorath Empire is coming." The AI paused, its light pulsing slowly. Then it spoke again. "Threat detected. Empire classification hostile. Directive. Defend humanity at all costs. Initializing combat readiness." The ship trembled as power surged through its veins. Hidden weapons extended from the hull, humming with deadly energy. Systems lit up across the bridge, showing maps of Sol, enemy approach vectors, and tactical simulations. The Aegis was awake. Far away, the Zorath fleet continued its advance. Their ships cut through hyperspace like blades, confidence unshaken. To them, Earth was just another weak target. But in the cold dark of the asteroid belt, humanity had just lit a spark. The galaxy did not yet know. The Empire did not yet realize. But the balance of power had already begun to shift. Earth's forgotten prototype had awakened. The Zorath Empire had never feared anyone. For centuries, their fleets spread across the galaxy, devouring weaker civilizations. Their empire stretched so far that even their maps could barely hold its borders. To the Zorath, conquest was not just survival, it was destiny. Every world was either theirs or would soon become theirs. Now their attention turned to Sul, humanity, Earth. To the Zorath commanders, Earth was nothing but a small world with fragile ships and laughable defenses. They had crushed greater powers before, species with mighty fleets, ancient weapons, and vast alliances. Compared to those, humans were barely an annoyance. When reports reached the Galactic Council that the Zorath had declared war on Earth, most alien ambassadors shook their heads in pity. "The humans are finished," they said. "They will not last a week." Perhaps it is mercy that the end will come quickly, but hidden deep within the asteroid belt, a different story was beginning. On the Aegis, Captain Elena Torres stood on the bridge, staring at the tactical displays the ship's AI was generating. The glowing holograms showed hundreds of red markers moving steadily toward Sol. Zorath fleets. Their numbers grew every hour as reinforcements poured in from nearby sectors. Lieutenant Harris cursed under his breath. That's not a fleet, that's an invasion wave. Dr. Malik shook his head. His tired eyes scanned the data, trying to process the numbers. They've committed over 200 warships already, and that's just the vanguard. The main armada hasn't even arrived yet. Elena folded her arms, her voice calm despite the storm of anxiety in her chest. And Earth has 65 defense ships, Malik replied grimly. Mostly frigates and cruisers. None of them can stand against Zorath battleships. The silence on the bridge was heavy. They all knew the truth. Earth's navy was small, built only to patrol and defend trade routes. It was not made to fight an empire. Against the Zorath, it would shatter like glass. Only the Aegis gave them hope. For days, the crew worked to learn the ship's systems. Every hour revealed new surprises. The Aegis was not just a warship, it was a masterpiece. Its gravity lances could tear through enemy armor with pinpoint precision. Its rail cannons could fire slugs at near light speed, faster than any shield could block. Its drone swarms operated like living extensions of the ship, overwhelming enemies with impossible coordination, and its AI core, simply calling itself Aegis, could analyze entire fleets in seconds, predicting their tactics before they even fired a shot. Lieutenant Harris, once a skeptic, now stared at the glowing displays with awe. This thing makes modern alien battleships look like toys. The AI's voice rumbled through the chamber. Correction. Probability of enemy fleet destruction. 73% with current power reserves. 89% if secondary systems are restored. Harris blinked. Wait, did it just say it can wipe out an entire fleet by itself? Dr. Malik grinned for the first time in days. That's exactly what it said. But Elena was not so quick to celebrate. She understood something the others did not. A single ship, no matter how powerful, could not be everywhere at once. The Empire would attack Earth's colonies, space stations, and trade routes. Civilians would die unless the Aegis acted carefully, and worse, there was another problem. The ship was old, centuries old. While its systems were far ahead of modern technology, its power core had not been used in generations. Already, Aegis reported fluctuations. Pushing it too hard might damage it permanently. We have a sword, Elena thought. But if we swing it recklessly, it may break. Still, Earth had no choice. They had to use it. The first Zorath ships entered the Sol system 2 days later. They arrived in formation, sleek and cruel vessels painted in the Empire's crimson colors. Each one bristled with weapons, shields glowing like fire. To the people of Earth watching from the surface, the sight of the enemy fleet appearing in the sky above the moon was terrifying. Panic spread across cities. Families rushed into shelters. Governments broadcast emergency orders. The Galactic Council sent only empty words of regret. But in orbit, Earth's defense fleet assembled. 65 human ships, their hulls shining with blue markings, formed a thin line before their homeworld. Their captains knew they were outnumbered, but none of them retreated. Humanity had faced extinction before. Plagues, wars, disasters, and every time they had fought to survive. The battle began quickly. The Zorath vanguard opened fire with plasma cannons, ripping through human cruisers. Explosions lit the void, as ships shattered one after another. The humans fought back bravely, their railguns hammering against enemy shields. But the difference in power was too great. Within minutes, 15 human ships were gone. On Earth, people watching the broadcasts wept. It seemed the Council had been right. Humanity was doomed. Then a new signal appeared on every scanner. From the asteroid belt, a dark shape moved into the light. 2 kilometers long, covered in black armor that shimmered with energy, it slid forward like a predator. The Aegis had entered the battle. The Zorath commanders laughed when they saw it. One ship? The humans send one? Destroy it and finish this. They moved to surround it, weapons charging. But the Aegis did not run. It did not even flinch. The AI's voice echoed on the human fleet's comms. Engaging hostile forces, stay clear of firing lanes. Then it struck. A single gravity lance fired and an enemy battleship simply tore apart, ripped into fragments as though invisible claws had shredded it. Rail cannons thundered, and 3 more ships fell in seconds. The drone swarms launched, darting through space like living sparks, tearing into enemy engines and weapons with surgical precision. In less than 5 minutes, 10 Zorath warships were gone. The human fleet, stunned, cheered as hope returned to their hearts. Civilians watching, the broadcast gasped and cried out in disbelief. The galaxy itself trembled, because in one moment, the myth became real. Humanity's forgotten prototype was not just powerful, it was unstoppable. But the Zorath Empire was not so easily broken. Even as their first detachment burned, the commanders snarled and sent in more ships. Hundreds more. They believed numbers would win the day. The AI calmly analyzed them all. Enemy adapting, new strategy required, preparing countermeasure. Captain Elena gave the order. Do it. The Aegis surged forward, cutting through. Enemy formations with impossible grace. Its weapons tore apart ships by the dozens, its shields absorbing blow after blow. The battlefield became chaos, fire and wreckage drifting among the stars. Human ships rallied behind it, striking the weakened enemy lines. For the first time, they were not prey but hunters. The Zorath vanguard was destroyed. The cost, however, was not small. 27 human ships were lost. Thousands of lives had been sacrificed, and Aegis itself showed signs of strain. The ancient power core was stable, but only just. On the bridge, Elena studied the damage reports. Her crew was exhausted, their eyes hollow but burning with determination. We bought time, she said quietly. But this was only the beginning. Dr. Malik nodded grimly. The Empire will not forgive this. They will send their full armada next. The AI confirmed with cold certainty. Analysis. Enemy will deploy primary fleet within 5 cycles. Estimated strength, 3,000 warships. Probability of Earth survival without Aegis, 0%. Harris swallowed hard. And with Aegis? The AI's core pulsed once. Probability, uncertain. Elena stood in silence, staring at the endless stars outside the viewport. The Empire was coming with everything it had. And humanity had only one ship. One ship. And the unbreakable will to survive. Far across the galaxy, alien ambassadors whispered, in shock. The humans had not fallen. The humans had unleashed something none of them had expected. The legend of Earth's prototype began to spread, and for the first time, the Empire hesitated, because a single, forgotten warship had just torn apart their fleet. The battlefield around Earth was silent now. Broken pieces of Zorath ships floated across the void, glowing faintly from burning plasma. Human ships limped back toward orbit, scarred and damaged but alive. And at the center of it all, the Aegis drifted like a titan of old, its dark hull shimmering with faint light, its weapons still smoking from the slaughter. On Earth, billions of people cheered. They had expected to die. Instead, they had seen hope. For the first time in history, humanity had stood against a galactic empire and lived. But inside the bridge of the Aegis, there was no celebration, only silence and exhaustion. Captain Elena, Torres sat in the command chair, her eyes fixed on the glowing displays. The AI core pulsed faintly in the center of the room, showing endless data streams, power levels, fleet movements, incoming transmissions. Lieutenant Harris leaned against a console, his face pale. We destroyed almost 200 Zorath ships, but we lost nearly half of our own fleet. Dr. Malik rubbed his eyes, his voice heavy. And that was just their vanguard. The main armada hasn't arrived yet. 3,000 ships minimum. The numbers weighed on them all. They had fought like lions, but the war was only beginning. The Galactic Council was in chaos. Holoscreens across the galaxy replayed the footage. A single human warship tearing apart an entire Zorath fleet. Species who once mocked humans now stared in disbelief. How did the primitives build such a thing? One ambassador demanded. Impossible. No council race has ever created a weapon like this. This Aegis? It changes everything. But while some were impressed, many were afraid. If humanity had one forgotten prototype, how many more could they be hiding? What if Earth became a threat to the Council itself? Fear spread quickly. And fear, in politics, was dangerous. Back on the Aegis, the crew continued learning the ship's secrets. Dr. Malik discovered that the warship's AI was not just a machine. It had been designed to evolve, to grow more intelligent with every battle. Already, after only one engagement, it was rewriting its own code, adapting to Zorath tactics. One evening, while the crew rested, the AI spoke directly to Elena. Captain Torres. Analysis complete. My current combat performance is operating at 35% of design potential. Full potential can be restored. Elena frowned. What do you mean restored? The AI's voice was calm, deep, and steady. During dormancy, multiple secondary systems were locked to prevent corruption. I can unlock them now, but the process carries risk. What kind of risk? Elena asked carefully. Unstable power surges, overload of the main core, possible loss of control. Elena stared at the glowing crystal. The thought of unleashing even more power from this ancient beast was terrifying. But so was the thought of facing 3,000 Zorath warships without it. Do it, she said finally. Unlock everything, we'll take the risk. The awakening began. Deep inside the ship, ancient systems roared back to life. Entire sections of the hull shifted, revealing hidden weapons that no one had ever seen before. Energy flowed through conduits that had been dark for centuries, glowing with an eerie blue light. On the bridge, the crew felt the ship tremble as though a sleeping monster was stretching its limbs after a long slumber. Lieutenant Harris gripped the console nervously. Captain, are we sure this is safe? Elena's eyes never left the displays. Safe? No. Necessary? Yes. The AI's voice filled the chamber. Secondary systems online. Weapon capacity increased by 214%. Shield strength increased by 178%. Probability of survival against Zorath Armada, 47%. Harris blinked. Wait, we went through all that and we're still less than 50-50? Dr. Malik gave a grim smile. Against 3,000 ships, that's actually an improvement. The Zorath Empire, however, was furious. News of their defeat spread quickly through their territory. The Emperor himself watched the recordings. With cold, burning rage. One ship, he hissed, his golden armor gleaming under the light of his throne room. One human ship has made us look weak. His generals knelt before him, their faces pale with fear. We underestimated them, Great Emperor. It will not happen again. We are mobilizing the Grand Armada now. Every ship, every weapon. Earth will be erased. The Emperor's eyes narrowed. Not erased, conquered. I want the humans alive, broken, and enslaved. And that ship, his voice dropped to a growl. I want it taken. It will be the jewel of my fleet. 5 days later, the Grand Armada arrived, 3,000 warships filling the void like a storm. Their red hulls glowed with fire, their weapons blazing. Every ship in the human system sounded alarms. Civilians prayed. Soldiers clenched their fists. And on the Aegis, Captain Elena stood tall. Report, she ordered. Enemy fleet entering. High orbit, Harris said. Formations tight. They're moving directly toward Earth. Dr. Malik's hands shook as he read the data. Shields on those capital ships are beyond anything we've seen before. Even Aegis might struggle to break them. The AI pulsed brightly. Tactical analysis complete. Multiple strategies available. Recommended action, direct engagement. Objective, break morale. Elena nodded. Then we hit them first. The Aegis surged forward. Human ships tried to follow. But Elena ordered them to hold back. They were brave but fragile. Against this many enemies, they would only die. The Aegis had to fight alone. The Zorath armada laughed when they saw it coming. The humans send their toy again, one commander sneered. Crush it this time. No survivors. The first wave opened fire. Thousands of plasma blasts and missile swarms streaked toward the Aegis. But the warship was ready. Its shields flared, absorbing the impact. Drones launched in every direction, weaving through enemy fire like sparks of lightning. Gravity lances fired in brilliant arcs, tearing enemy destroyers apart. Rail cannons thundered, smashing through capital ships as though they were paper. The void lit up with fire and wreckage. In the first 10 minutes, 50 Zorath ships were destroyed. But the Empire did not falter. Their commanders screamed orders, pushing more and more ships forward. The Aegis danced through them, moving with impossible speed for a vessel its size. Its AI predicted every shot, every ambush, every trap. Yet still the enemy numbers pressed down. On the bridge, Harris shouted, "We can't keep this up forever. They'll wear us down." The AI answered coldly. Solution: initiate experimental. Weapon protocol requesting captain's authorization. Elena hesitated. Explain. Singularity driver. Creates artificial black hole. Maximum destruction radius 50 kilometers. Risk: catastrophic failure of core. The crew went pale. A weapon that could create a black hole? It could wipe out hundreds of enemy ships, but it might also destroy the Aegis itself. Elena closed her eyes for a moment. The weight of billions of human lives pressed on her shoulders. Then she opened them again, firm and unyielding. "Do it," she said. The Aegis prepared the weapon. Energy built up across its hull, glowing brighter and brighter until even the enemy ships paused, unsure of what they were seeing. Then space itself seemed to twist. A small point of absolute darkness appeared before the ship, pulling everything toward it. Enemy vessels screamed across the comms as their ships were dragged in, crushed into fragments by impossible gravity. Explosions rippled through the fleet as dozens, then hundreds of ships were torn apart. The humans watching from Earth gasped in terror and awe. They had never seen such power. When the singularity collapsed, silence fell across the battlefield. Where once there had been hundreds of Zorath ships, now there was nothing but wreckage. The Aegis still stood, damaged, scarred, but alive. On the bridge, Harris collapsed into his chair, trembling. We just killed over 200 ships in one strike," Dr. Malik whispered. "This is not a warship, it's a god of war." But Elena's eyes remained cold. She knew the truth. They had hurt the Armada, yes, but more ships were still coming, and every time they pushed the Aegis this hard, the AI power core weakened. The AI pulsed dimly. "Warning, structural integrity at 60%. Core stability compromised." Elena clenched her fists. "We'll hold. We have no other choice." Across the galaxy, fear spread like wildfire. The Zorath Empire had unleashed its full might, and yet a single human ship still stood. The Council, races whispered among themselves. Some saw opportunity, others saw danger, but all agreed on one thing. The galaxy would never be the same, because Earth's forgotten prototype had awakened. The galaxy had never seen a battle like this. 3,000 Zorath warships, the full might of an empire, filled the void above Sol. Each ship was massive, armed with plasma cannons, energy lances, and missile arrays that could wipe out entire cities. The stars themselves seemed to tremble under the power of the Armada, and at the center of it all, alone but unbroken, drifted the Aegis. Captain Elena Torres stood on the bridge, her eyes scanning the holographic displays. Every ship in the Zorath fleet was moving with deadly precision. Their goal was simple: crush humanity completely. Her crew was silent, each person bracing for the storm to come. Lieutenant Harris, still pale from the last engagement, whispered, 3,000 ships. How do we fight that? Elena's eyes were cold. We don't fight them like humans. We fight them like Earth built Aegis to fight, smart, fast, and unafraid. The AI pulsed softly, almost like a heartbeat. Captain, Tactical analysis complete. Enemy is forming multiple concentric attack rings. Probability of breaking outer layers, 52%. Inner fleet survival, 38%. Elena nodded. Then let's improve those odds. The first wave struck. Hundreds of Zorath ships surged forward, plasma fire streaking across the void. Their lances hit the Aegis's shields, shaking the vessel like a leaf in a storm. The human crew held fast, monitoring every sensor, every strike. Then the warship responded. Gravity lances fired, tearing through enemy hulls with impossible precision. Rail cannons thudded against capital ships, sending chunks of debris spinning into space. Drone swarms darted like living sparks, disabling enemy weapons and engines. In moments, the first wave was shattered. 50 Zorath ships lay in ruins, floating in silence. From Earth, the civilians watched, mouths open in disbelief. Children clutched their parents' hands. Soldiers cheered in the orbital stations. Humanity had never felt this hope before. But the Zorath Empire was relentless. The next wave was larger, moving faster, coordinated with deadly skill. Their strategy was clear. Surround the Aegis, cut off its escape, and overwhelm it with sheer numbers. The Aegis did not flinch. Its AI adapted instantly. Ships that aimed for the flanks found themselves shredded by unexpected fire. Missiles were caught mid-flight and redirected into enemy formations. Drones multiplied, swarming like a storm, tearing apart entire squadrons. Harris stared at the displays, disbelief written across his face. It predicts everything. It knows what they'll do before they do it. Dr. Malik nodded. Not predicts. It anticipates. This AI doesn't just fight. It thinks like a fleet commander centuries ahead of its time. Even Elena allowed herself a small, grim smile. They were fighting impossible odds, and surviving. But the battle was not without cost. Despite the Aegis's incredible power, enemy fire hit human ships supporting it. Frigates and cruisers were destroyed, shields overwhelmed. The void glowed with explosions as men and women gave their lives to protect Earth. Status report, Elena demanded. Malik's fingers flew over the controls. Shields holding at 78%. Weapon systems are at 85%. Human fleet, 22 ships remaining. Casualties significant. Elena's jaw tightened. We hold. We survive. We win. The Zorath Emperor, watching from his flagship, had grown furious. How dare these humans survive? He roared, his voice echoing through the halls of his command center. I want that ship destroyed. Every Zorath vessel in this system will fire until it is nothing but ash. His fleet responded instantly. Thousands of ships shifted, forming a massive ring around Earth. Their attack was coordinated, precise, designed to crush the Aegis completely. But the AI remained calm. Analysis. Emperor is overconfident. Tactical window detected. Recommended strike point. Central flagship. Probability of collapse of enemy morale, 67%. Elena's eyes narrowed. Then we aim for the heart. The Aegis surged forward, faster than any human ship had ever traveled. Its hull glimmered with energy as all weapons came online. The drones swarmed ahead, cutting paths through enemy lines. Gravity lances flared, rail cannons thundered, missiles struck in perfect coordination. The Zorath fleet reeled. Ships exploded in massive bursts. Smoke and debris painted the void in fire and light. The Emperor's flagship, massive and heavily armored, was targeted by the Aegis's AI with surgical precision. Harris shouted, "They can't stop this!" "Doctor," Malik's voice trembled. "Every strike is calculated. It's like the ship knows their weak points better than they do." Even the Emperor's own advisors began to doubt. Perhaps we underestimated humans. But he refused to surrender. The Aegis's drones breached the Emperor's flagship perimeter. Energy shields failed as gravity lances pierced the hull. Rail cannons ripped apart engines and weapon systems. The Emperor watched in disbelief as his proud flagship was crippled by a single human warship. Desperation spread through the Zorath fleet. Ships tried to retreat, But the Aegis's singularity weapon, still active in controlled bursts, shredded their formations. Entire sections of the armada were destroyed, forcing the remainder to fall back. The Emperor's rage was unmatched. He ordered a direct assault on the Aegis. His personal guard of warships formed a hammer strike, aiming to crush the ancient human weapon once and for all. The battle became a duel. The Aegis danced through the enemy fleet with impossible precision. Each strike was deadly, each movement calculated. Enemy ships fell one by one. The void burned with energy blasts and destroyed vessels. Harris shouted, barely able to keep up. "Captain, it's unstoppable." Elena's voice was steady. "It's not unstoppable, it's ours. We have to guide it." The AI spoke calmly. Enemy core vessel identified. Probability of destruction if engaged directly, 78%. Probability of Aegis damage, 50%. Elena nodded. "Then we take the risk. Fire everything." The final assault began. Gravity lances tore through the Emperor's flagship, followed by rail cannon fire that pierced its armor. Drones infiltrated every compartment, sabotaging weapon systems and engines. Missiles struck in perfect synchronization. For a moment, the void seemed to hold its breath. Then, with a massive explosion, the flagship shattered. Fire and debris rained across space. The Emperor's fleet faltered. Morale collapsed. Without their leader's command, Zorath ships fled in disorder, their formations breaking apart completely. From Earth, people cheered. The impossible had happened. The Zorath Empire, the greatest force in the galaxy, had been broken before their eyes. But the Aegis was damaged. The ancient power core trembled. Weapon systems were on the edge of failure. The hull bore the scars of battle. Yet the ship still floated, alive, ready to defend its home. On the bridge, Elena stood tall, her face illuminated by the glow of the tactical displays. Harris and Malik were exhausted, but their eyes burned with pride. "We did it," Harris whispered. Elena's voice was quiet but strong. "No, we survived. And the galaxy is watching. Humanity will never be underestimated again." The AI pulsed in agreement. Humanity defended. Threat neutralized. Probability of enemy regrouping. Low. Tactical advantage. Maximum. "Across the stars," whispers began. "Did you see it? The humans, they destroyed the entire fleet. How many more of these ships do they have?" The legend of Earth had grown. From obscurity and mockery to fear and respect, humanity had shown the galaxy that even one determined species could defy an empire. And the Aegis, forgotten for centuries, had reminded everyone of a simple truth: never underestimate humans. The galaxy would remember this day. The battlefield was quiet, but the tension hung in the void like smoke. The Zorath Empire had been shattered. Hundreds of ships were drifting in space, burned-out wrecks marking the defeat of the once great armada. But the Emperor himself had not been seen since the destruction of his flagship. The remnants of his forces moved in disorder, a broken army retreating toward the edges of known space. Yet for humanity, there was no time for celebration. The Aegis drifted in orbit, wounded but alive. Its hull bore countless scars, its weapon systems strained to their limits. Its ancient power core hummed with low, unstable energy. Even with the Emperor's fleet defeated, the threat was not over. Captain Elena Torres stood on the bridge, staring at the tactical displays. Her crew was exhausted, their faces pale, but their eyes burned with determination. Lieutenant Harris leaned against a console, shaking slightly, unable to process the chaos they had survived. We did it," he said quietly. "The Empire, they're gone." Elena did not respond immediately. Her eyes were fixed on a distant point on the displays. The AI had been tracking something, a faint signal from the Emperor himself. The AI pulsed with a calm voice. "Captain, enemy leader detected. Location, primary command station, outer sector. Probability of escape, high. Recommendation, pursue and engage directly." Elena's jaw tightened. "Then we go after him. One final strike. Humanity ends this. Here and now. The Aegis left orbit, moving faster than any human ship had ever traveled. Its weapons were ready, its shields active, drones swarming ahead to clear any remaining obstacles. The crew held on to their stations, nerves taut. This was not just a mission, it was the future of humanity. As they approached the Emperor's location, the void seemed to darken. The remnants of his fleet had regrouped around a massive flagship, heavily armored, with layers of shields that even the Aegis had never seen before. Hundreds of warships accompanied it, forming a defensive barrier of fire and steel. Harris gulped. "Captain, that's insane. We're outnumbered again." Elena's eyes did not waver. "Numbers mean nothing if you know how to fight. Aegis, engage." The AI pulsed brightly. "Tactical protocol maximum. Enemy defense probability, 56%. Suggestion, singularity strike combined with direct assault." Dr. Malik's hands flew over the controls. A singularity strike? Again? It could overload the core this time. Elena nodded firmly. "It's the only way. Humanity will not bow to tyrants." The final battle began. The Emperor's flagship opened fire, plasma beams cutting across space toward the Aegis. Missiles streaked like stars falling from the sky. The smaller warships formed tight defensive layers, determined to protect their leader. The Aegis weaved through the firestorm. Gravity lances struck first, piercing enemy shields with surgical precision. Rail cannons followed, tearing through hulls like paper. Drones darted through formations, sabotaging engines and weapons. The human fleet, though small, followed orders with precision. Every surviving ship acted as an extension of the Aegis, coordinating attacks and avoiding enemy fire. The Zorath. Commanders once so confident began to falter. "Impossible," one growled. "How can one ship, one species, do this?" The Emperor, watching from his bridge, clenched his fists. Rage burned in his eyes. "Destroy it. I want that human ship crushed. Every weapon, every cannon, fire until it is nothing." But even his orders could not match the Aegis's precision. Each strike from the human warship was calculated to the millisecond. Enemy formations broke apart, shields overloaded, engines exploded. The AI's voice echoed through the Aegis. "Captain, critical opportunity detected. Enemy flagship's main shields down 34%. Probability of complete destruction, 79%. Elena's eyes narrowed. "Then we end this." The Aegis unleashed its final assault. Energy surged through the hull, lighting up the void like a small sun. The singularity weapon activated again, pulling enemy vessels toward a dark center of gravity. Massive explosions ripped through the defensive fleet as ships were crushed, thrown into debris, or vaporized entirely. The human crew watched as the Emperor's flagship struggled to remain intact. Rail cannons fired directly at the core, gravity lances tore through the outer hull, and drones infiltrated every compartment. For the first time, the Emperor looked afraid. The golden armor of his command room gleamed, but his hands shook. No, how can this be? I am the ruler of thousands of worlds, but the Aegis was relentless. Every maneuver, every strike, every calculation had been designed to ensure humanity survived, and the Emperor's reign ended. With a final, massive blast, the flagship shattered. The explosion was so intense that the remaining Zorath ships scattered in panic. The Emperor's voice, last heard over the comms, was a scream of rage and disbelief before it went silent forever. The AI confirmed. Primary threat neutralized. Remaining enemy forces disorganized. Probability of regrouping minimal. Elena exhaled slowly, her hands trembling slightly. It's over. For the first time in centuries, the galaxy was quiet. Billions of eyes turned toward Sol. The humans, once ignored, had crushed an empire. Civilization after civilization watched in awe. Species that had laughed at humanity were now whispering, in fear and respect. The Council of Galaxies, once hesitant to act, convened immediately. Every ambassador knew the truth. Humans were no longer minor players. They had power, intelligence, and determination unmatched by most other civilizations. Even the Council itself was forced to acknowledge it. Back on the Aegis, the crew took a moment to breathe. Lieutenant Harris finally spoke. Captain, we did it. Humanity, we actually did it. Dr. Malik nodded, tears in his eyes. And that ship, it's more than a weapon. It's a protector, a symbol. We've shown the galaxy what humans can do. Elena stared at the stars, her heart swelling with pride and relief. Yes, and now, the galaxy knows. We never wanted war, but if anyone dares to threaten us, they will see why Earth's children are not to be underestimated. The AI pulsed softly, almost like it understood the weight of the moment. Humanity's defense complete. Legend established. Directive: protect Earth and all humans. Status: ready for future threats. Across the universe, whispers became stories. Stories became legends. And the name of Earth spread farther than anyone had imagined. Humans were no longer the underdogs. They were survivors, fighters, and protectors. They had faced the greatest empire in the galaxy and won. Not through sheer numbers, but through ingenuity, courage, and the indomitable will to survive. From now on, every species knew. Humanity was to be respected, feared, and admired. And in the silence of space, the Aegis floated, waiting, watching, guarding its home. The galaxy had changed forever. Humanity had ascended,